Howdy there, Isaac here. Last time, we saw the fallout of the Hellbreaker arc bearing its fangs within Resurrection F. Will Cell and the Earthlings be able to prevail, or will they have to rely on help from Vegeta and Boo? Let's find out what may have happened if Cell survived. The story starts now. Commander Violet? Well, if that didn't give it away, his number designation sure did. So this guy was an android and creation of Dr. Gero. Well, the sublab had been destroyed by Krillin and Trunks long ago, so either someone was continuing the doctor's research, or he had somehow survived Hiffle. That explained the commandos and royal guards that Frieza now used, but even Gero shouldn't be capable of creating such advanced warriors. While the Bugman would usually try to piece everything together, Violet didn't let him do so, charging in and brawling him with blinding speed. Cell noticed Violet's strength, while nothing to scoff at, was nowhere near that of Frieza's, yet his techniques and fighting prowess made up for that. None of his hits hurt, but Cell just couldn't land a blow of his own, meaning neither of the two had an edge. Midway through the fight, Cell came to the conclusion that this android's only purpose was to stall for time, though that was just fine, since it meant Frieza was no longer attacking his friends. Whilst Cell and Violet were having their fight, Gohan and company had successfully destroyed the remaining commandos, while many of the organic soldiers were either retreating or knocked out. By this point, Gotenks and Lazulia only had around 10 minutes or so left, and while they desperately wanted to do something to help Cell, they could see Frieza watching them with the utmost of ire. Since Goten and Trunks had been keeping up their training, Gotenks is naturally a tiny bit stronger than in canon, but also knows Frieza is too powerful for him. However, if Lazulia could get a few psycho threads on him, maybe the two could land a decisive blow. The female fusion initially refused to help, but both Pui Pui and Mei pushed for this plan while they still had the time. With pressure from the remaining fighters, Lazulia caved, and a plan was formed. From afar, Frieza watched the side characters huddle in a group, whispering something to each other. He didn't think they'd seriously try to fight him, but when an incredibly fast special beam cannon came flying at him, the tyrant found himself having to knock some sense into the pipsqueaks. Pui Pui, Mei, Gotenks, and Lazulia all charged him, getting close enough to actually land a couple blows, though these did nothing to the Emperor. Pui Pui kicked Frieza in the chest, whilst Mei grabbed his arms, pulling him back to receive an uppercut from Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks. But that's about all the combos they're able to get in, as Frieza immediately breaks free of Mei's grip, sending a death beam through her chest before hitting the other two away from him. He looks around to make sure nobody else is coming, but that's when he sees the slight glint of a string, then notices several hundreds of strings glowing around him. They all wrap around the Emperor's body, draining his energy whilst several kamikaze ghosts fly in. On the ground, Mei regenerates from her injuries before rallying the others and telling them to charge their strongest attacks. Gohan, Piccolo, and the Bald Brigade all charge attacks, whilst Gohan uses several galactic donuts to reinforce Lazulia's strings, getting help from even his ghosts. However, sensing the incoming blasts, and his own energy starting to dip, Frieza quickly powers up, slowly snapping the strings and stretching the donuts. Super Saiyan 3 Gohan was trying his hardest to keep Frieza pinned in place, and Lazulia kept making more strings to bog down the Emperor. But it's all for naught, as a golden aura begins to cover their target, and both are instantly broken. Luckily, they had bought enough time for the others as a large multicolored energy beam washed over the Golden Emperor, right as Gotenks and Lazulia defused. Everyone felt pretty confident that they had at least hurt the Emperor, but Goten could sense it. The immense increase in power Frieza had attained, and the fact that any damage that could have been done was negated. The sheer power on display made Goten's mind nearly melt, him pretty much wetting his pants, something both May and Trunks noticed, and then they too sensed the power, and understood what was going through his head. The smoke from their attack hadn't even dissipated, and several death beams flew out, striking Goten, Trunks, 18, and Zangia before any of them could react. From afar, Cell reached out towards his comrades, but Violet instantly grabbed him by his crown, headbutt him, then launched a laser from his one eye, burning through Cell's own eye. The android made sure Cell couldn't possibly help his allies out. But Cell wasn't the only person who was upset at this development, as Gohan had just watched his brother fall right in front of his eyes. As Frieza monologues about how two children managed to push him this far into using this form, Gohan transformed into his Super Saiyan 2 state and charged the Emperor. However, even with a rage boost, all Gohan could do was put a tiny scratch on Frieza's cheek. The Space Lizard simply grabbed Gohan by the wrist and squeezed as hard as he could, snapping it like a twig. This, of course, causes the other Z-Fighters to charge in and try to help, but within seconds, all of them are sent to the ground. But not all is lost, as that's right when Buu, Vegeta, and an Angel Goku arrive. Cell is relieved to sense their ki, and knows everything will be fine now, since that trio could easily deal with Frieza, let alone Violet. Whilst Vegeta fights Frieza, Cell powers up and begins fighting off Violet, who's seemingly becoming slower, allowing the Bugman to close the gap between their reaction times. Smoke also begins to billow from the grooves on Violet's armor as he continues to slow, their battle finally ending once Cell lands a single blow on his chest, denting the armor and sending the android to the ground. Violet's breathing is now extremely shallow and comes with a wheeze, and when he goes to open his chest plate, Cell steps on his arm, stopping him without hesitation. The android looks up at Cell and seemingly understands the situation, simply laying his head down and looking over to watch the Emperors fight. Their level of power exceeds expectation. Even you, one of Jiro's greatest creations, pales in comparison. Even so, this level of power won't be enough. If you're the best he can conjure, I doubt you'll get close to your goals. Cell increased the pressure on Violet's arm, causing it to spark and crackle. Oh, I'm hardly the best. Besides, the doctor's plan is going exactly as expected. Just then, Violet began to glow, right as Frieza fell out of his golden form. A large explosion rocked the earth, covering the entire battlefield. Luckily, Buu was able to use globs of his body to shield everyone except Cell, Frieza, and Vegeta, but they were fine. Kinda. Cell was, well, mostly just his nucleus by now, but after regenerating he was fine, physically at least. However, both Vegeta and Frieza were both in their base forms and had sustained quite serious injuries, with the Space Lizard missing one of his arms and a tail. In all the confusion and smoke, someone came out and grabbed Frieza. Buu, the only fighter still standing, sensed this new power and stretched his arms out to grab this mystery fighter, but when he was only inches away, they seemingly teleported. The Emperor's ship then flew into space and quickly went light speed to avoid capture as well. Buu, knowing there was a chance of tracking them down later, began working on healing the injured, getting everyone back up to full strength. Once all was said and done, the Z-Fighters quickly gathered the Dragon Balls, though were upset to learn that they needed to wait around 7 or 8 months to revive those they lost. Cell and Gohan were especially upset since they were looked at as the respective leaders of their crews. Gohan was the one who led the forces of Earth against all those robotic fiends, and when they tried fighting Frieza, he was nowhere near strong enough to help. Even Goten had surpassed him by this point. He should have listened to Piccolo when it came to training. Cell also knew he needed to get stronger, and could tell Gohan was thinking the same way. And once Goku and Vegeta talk about his potential, the Bugman gets an idea. He walked over towards the Half Saiyan, asking if they could go for a quick walk. The two fly off, and Cell brings up how they both failed to protect their family today, and needed to find a new path to power. Though Gohan brings up all his meetings. Gohan, what if Bulma hadn't been able to contact Whis? Frieza would have destroyed this world, disintegrating your precious Videl and Pan. Next time Earth is in danger, I doubt we'll be so lucky. So please, to help protect both our families, stop slacking off. Cell flew off, leaving Gohan to contemplate what could have been. Cell goes back to the battlefield where Vegeta asks if he set Gohan straight, which both him and Goku are relieved to hear that he did his best. The droid then walks over towards Mei, who's greatly saddened that Goten and Trunks are gone, as well as Zangia. But that's when Goku spits out that they could just use the Namekian Dragon Balls. Everyone is sorta ashamed they forgot about this, but Cell instantly teleports over, and within minutes, everyone is brought back, assuming Mori upgraded the Namekian Dragon Balls. If anything, he can just probably like pour some water on it, and you know, Namekian Shenron will be all good. Mei is happy that her friends are alive, though the experience seems to have gotten to both boys, who state they really should take their training a lot more seriously. Both Goku and Vegeta offer to help, but also state that there's still some time to play and relax, which both boys appreciate. Once everyone goes their separate ways, most of the cast begins training, as they know Frieza would eventually come back to finish the job. The prince, especially, spares no expense when it comes to becoming stronger. He even wonders if he could learn to use destruction energy from Beerus, though this idea is turned down since Whis states a destroyer must have a calm heart and be unbiased. But he'll ask Beerus once he's awake anyways. Now, this is when Champa arrives and the Universe 6 saga begins. It goes about how you'd expect, with Goku, Cell, and Buu immediately joining. Vegeta, however, is not down to leave Earth defenseless. Even when Goku begs and pleads to have him in the tournament, Vegeta refuses, especially since he had Bulma building a new and improved gravity room. Well, with that being his answer, the crew traveled to Earth to ask Piccolo and Gohan if they'd want to join. Luckily enough, the two are training off in the mountains, but when asked, they refuse as well, basically going with the same answer as Vegeta. With all the initially strong fighters staying on Earth, Buu wonders if Goten or Mei would want to join, or perhaps Soma. Cell shoots down the idea of Soma joining, but Goten and Mei might have fun. And what do you know? When asked, they actually agree to join, although with the caveat that Cell record their fights to show Trunks later, since he has to train with Vegeta apparently. We would also get a funny montage of Cell learning how to use a cell phone, and yes, he would definitely be using an Android, not an iPhone. Have fun with that. Now, before they leave for the unnamed planet, Cell and Goku end up going into the time chamber since both are basically immortal at this point and could use a quick power-up. After a boost in power and a couple of amazing beards that they unfortunately have to shave, the crew rush off to meet Champa's team. Now, after fighting Frieza and with his looming threat to their planet, seeing Frost is not a good sight, but Piccolo doesn't sense any evil intent, so he seems fine. Now, Goku beats Potamo just like in canon, and loses to Frost as usual. But that's when May steps in. Cell tells her to watch for any strange techniques, and unlike the Saiyans, she instantly powers up and goes ham on Frost. It's pretty up in the air as to if diseases or poisons work on Cell or his kin, but even if they do, the Iceling has no chance of poisoning May. Even when he tries, she simply grabs his forearms and exposes him as a cheat, before continuing to wail on him and then throwing him out of the ring. Usually she'd face off against Vegeta next, but Boo asks if he can go. Champa agrees to this, hoping Vegeta can use his special abilities to take out one of Universe 7's strongest fighters, but this actually backfires, as the Majin is unaffected, and then uses a special ability of his own, turning Vegeta into candy and throwing him out of the ring. Though he is still kind of tempted to eat him, but he doesn't. Next up is Goten vs. Kaba, since the idea of a gauntlet-style tournament was kind of boring to everyone attending, and Goten also wanted to get a decent fight against a fellow Saiyan. Goten had been training with Piccolo and Gohan, honing his ki control skills, but that's not the only difference here. The Saiyan hybrid had also grown a few inches taller, much like how Goku had in the 22nd Tenkaichi Budokai, or kind of how Gohan looked during the BoJack movie. And his hairstyle was starting to change as it was beginning to grow out a little bit more. This Kaba guy not only looked strong, but also young like Goten himself. This guy would be a good test of just how far the hybrid had come. The two begin their fight, and Goten shows how tactically gifted he is, having several ki blasts flying around the ring, aiding him in battle, tripping up Kaba and dealing some pretty good damage. However, when Goten wonders why Kaba hadn't transformed, the fight quickly pauses. Unlike Vegeta, Goten never really had to go through trauma to get Super Saiyan, but that doesn't mean he can't teach it. He goes into Super Saiyan and explains how it feels, before powering down and telling Kaba he just needs a little bit of pressure. Before he knew it, the Universe 6 Saiyan is being brutally assaulted by Goten and hundreds of ki blasts at this point. Though every time he's about to be thrown out of the ring, a ki blast knocks him back in. It's almost like torture to the Saiyan, as if he were being toyed with by this evil Saiyan from Universe 7. Goten had taken a lesson from Piccolo's harsh training methods, and was pushing Kaba to his limits, though was trying not to hurt his opponent, but the power difference didn't exactly help. Finally, after being thrown around the ring like a rag doll, Kaba transforms and furiously charges Goten. Despite now having Super Saiyan, once Goten transforms as well, they're evenly matched. Kaba does his best, but when several hundred ki spheres fly into his back, there's not much he can do to stay in the ring. Goten powers down and congratulates Kaba for getting Super Saiyan and for having a fun match. The two shake hands, and Goten says they should spar again sometime, and Kaba promises to get stronger and win their next fight. Now, the only person who hasn't fought from Universe 7 is Cell, and as we all know, Hit is Universe 6's final fighter. The Bugman could sense this opponent was serious, and far more powerful than any of the others. With such a fearsome opponent, Cell may get to test out his new technique. Sorry, Goku, but Cell might end up stealing the show this time. But with the android about to fight against this fearsome assassin, that's where we'll be leaving things off for right now. If you enjoyed this video, I'd appreciate you using a combination attack to hold off the like button, or maybe even having you pressure that subscribe button into using its new form. But even if you don't, thank you for getting to this part of the video. It really means a lot. So I checked YouTube Studio today on the 1st, and wow, we reached 600 subs in about a month. That's way faster than I thought it'd happen, which means I'll probably be writing that Yamcha what if as promised. Once again, it's so incredible seeing both new and old subs commenting, voting on polls, and just overall supporting the channel, even if you guys don't realize it. So, thank you guys. Not only are we celebrating 600 subs, but also the fact that What If Cell Survived is my longest running series, at least once I post that. Speaking of long and posting that, I should probably get to editing this, not to cut my very long rambles short, but yeah, I think it would be a good idea to start getting on editing this. You guys have a good day or night wherever you are. That's it for now. Bye bye.